Okay, I think this is the last one for chapter 22. Yay! Okay, so in the last video I made this big flowchart of the immune response in response to class 1 and class 2 MHCs. So basically what that was kind of like 791 and 792, those diagrams there. But before you even get there, and maybe I got a little excited to draw my big flowchart out for you, because I love flowcharts, page 788 has how the class 1 and class 2 MHCs are created. So I suggest looking at that diagram there of those two little blobby cells, right, and flowcharting that out, right, on your note cards or on your sheet of paper. Flowchart that out so you can see the actual process of how the class 1 and class 2 MHCs are created. So that's that. There is a list of cytokines and their functions on 790. Don't worry about all of that. That is a lot of, I have you learn a lot of stuff in this class, but that's a little much. I'll draw the line there. How about that? Last little bits of this chapter are about the different types of antibodies. So not all antibodies are created equal. They're all a little different, and they're all going to respond differently in different situations. So the table that's on 793 shows you the different shapes. They all have the same basic outline. They have heavy chain and light chain and a variable chain in there, which allows them to be specialized, which makes sense, right? But the differences between the different types of antibodies, in general, the majority of your antibodies are Igg antibodies. And what that means is these are your generalized antibodies. This is for your passive immunity. This is most of your virus and bacteria are going to be attacked by these Igg antibodies. IgE antibodies are for your allergies, your allergic response, right? And so that's what the IgEs are, and if you've ever had allergy testing done, you'll probably be familiar with that. IgDs are ones that are on specialized B cells that have been sensitized, so that's what the IgDs are. IgMs are for your blood types. So go back to chapter 19, and when I drew up my little chart and talked about antibodies, they're IgM antibodies, and IgA antibodies, as I mentioned, are in your glandular secretions like the breast milk that I mentioned before. So the other thing that's important to understand, I don't know if your book really gets into it too much, yeah, on page 796, there's a little graph showing you how these antibodies proliferate in an immune response. And so in general, for a primary response, or the first time you're being exposed to an antibody, the IgMs surge. And again, IgMs are the ones that respond to the blood types, and that's, you know, systemic protection, right? They want to make sure that whatever it is isn't going to affect your entire system. So IgMs flourish in a primary response, and then the IgGs come about. And again, IgGs are the general ones that respond to most viruses and bacteria. In a secondary response, the next time you're exposed, the IgGs surge first. And that's, again, because more than likely whatever it is, it's going to be a virus or bacteria, and you've already made those antibodies. They're already floating around, kind of on patrol, waiting to be infected again. And so they're very easily surged in production. Just going back to the book to make sure I've touched on everything, 795 shows you the different effects of antibodies in the body and how they cause different pathways like complement or inflammatory response. All important. 797 shows you the proliferation of those cytotoxic T cells, how they're created, which we've pretty much talked about already. And then the passive and natural and artificial immunities, which we've covered. Immunotherapy, we haven't quite hit on the head, but if you look at the diagram, the flowchart diagram that's on page 802, this is just a general overview of the immune interactions between innate and adaptive immunity. So again, we've pretty much covered that in our overall big picture stuff. Page 803 is a list of diseases and disorders that are associated with the immune system. I would be familiar with those. I always like to pull from the textbook when I'm looking at essays and case studies for your exams. Again, I don't ever have you know anything super specific with them, but you know, you might have to hypothesize something as long as it makes sense, as long as it's logical, a logical explanation that serves its purpose. And then we always get to the aging piece, which everything is just slower and less effective as we get older. So that summarizes chapter 22 for us. I hope you guys had fun in this chapter. It's a pretty intense chapter. And I hate to say it, but I feel like pretty much every chapter from here out is very physiology intense. So hang in there and have a great day. Bye-bye.